Hi everyone, welcome. I'm out here in my yard, and the system that we've got in front of me over here is my outdoor worm bag version 4.0, and that really, as you might have guessed, just signifies that this is the fourth time I'm doing this out here, kind of running an outdoor worm system. Been doing it for a couple years now, and I've had pretty good luck with it. This system, I guess with everyone's help, with feedback from all the viewers, we came up with an estimate of this system's population back 162 days ago when we first set it up, of a population somewhere around 3,500 worms. And over that time, past 162 days, the system's been fed 12 times. The last of those feedings came 10 days ago. Past few times we've checked in here, I've been super generous with the bedding. So like 3 times ago I came in here with one of those leaf collection bags that the township provides. I had taken that thing and I had shredded it up into little tiny pieces by hand and used that as the bedding. The next time we came back in here, I had taken yet another of those bags, and that time I had shredded the material with my shredder, making the material a lot finer. So that was what we used the next time. So there was hand torn leaf bag like what you see here, and then machine shredded leaf bag, which I'm sure we'll bump into still, unless they gobbled it all up, because it was nice and bite-sized. But the most recent feeding, when I came in here, utilized a bedding that's a little unconventional, but I had tons of it laying around me in the yard here. And it's these little things that fall off my maple tree. They usually connect up in a pair. So here's 2 of them stuck together. What's in the middle here, though, this part of it in the center, is a seed. This is the seed. And it's interesting too, when I was a kid we used to love dropping these things from a height, because the big leaf portion of this thing causes it to spin while it's falling. And it was kind of cool too. It's like I saw a little birdie come up to my windowsill earlier today, and it didn't see me behind the curtain, but it picked one of these things up, and so delicately with its beak managed to tear off the leaf part, and then the little guy, oops, swallowed the seed. And I guess we all know birds really like their seeds. And I figured I would try to keep up the theme here. After 3 feedings with what I would consider to be very generous applications of bedding, I attempted to come prepared for yet another one. This is just my leaf box that I use down in my wormery. My intention was to empty it here, and then as long as I'm out here, I'm just going to go over to my little supply of that stuff and reload the box so it's topped off and ready for further use. Okay, I didn't really mark where I had last fed, so I felt like I would have to probe around for it a little bit. It wasn't too hard to find. So this is the side that we fed last. We had gotten into this back and forth pattern with those generous bedding applications. So the one that I mentioned 3 times ago with the torn paper would have been on this side, onto which we later came back last time and put the maple seeds. And the one that came between those 2 applications was the application of the shredded stuff. So I guess if we were to go down in here, unless they ate it all, we would probably find some leftover. Here we go, pretty good stash of it that was just jumbled up and isn't really getting a lot of attention because it was jumbled up. So I guess one thing we could do to help things in general is just take stuff like that when we encounter them and kind of break them up and get that stuff out into the material surrounding it, instead of letting it remain all jumbled up where it gets no attention. Otherwise it's really just its outer surface that's getting any attention at all, and break down, kind of putting what's in the middle of these little jumbles into sort of a suspended animation, going nowhere fast for a while until the surrounding material is deteriorated and reduced to nothing. You know, the other reason I guess I was not gonna try to do another massive application of bedding on this go around was because of the last 3 check-ins being as generous as they were, has resulted in a lot of bedding in here already. And I'm not attempting to maintain these 2 sides where, you know, this is side A or this is side B. I'm just, you know, kind of making my way around, and when we get around to feeding today, we don't necessarily have to stick to that pattern of going back and forth. We can feed anywhere we like. I've not really been attempting to transform this into one of my systems where I alternate the feeding location each time. It just seemed like a smart thing to do in the most recent past few check-ins. And the other smart thing that we did during the last few check-ins was apply a lot of moisture, because the stuff in here did seem awfully dry last time. And my hope was that we wouldn't encounter that again here, and I'm really glad to see that everything seems nice in here. Not terribly wet, even though it was raining past few days. Because of that covering that this system's got, it didn't really receive much, if any, of the rain that fell. Maybe some of that fell onto that, you know, piece of wood and then slid around the side, made its way around the edges down into the system to add a little bit of moisture, but probably very little, if any. All right. Every time I encounter one of my previous applications of bedding, I always have this sense that I want to seek out any clumps of the stuff that might not have been approachable because it wasn't a big clump, and try to help break it apart and spread it around the surrounding materials, and just sort of taking that lap around the system to do that with all the previous applications of bedding. Not only the most recent one of this stuff, but even some of the previous applications of that paper were still kind of clumped together, which to me means it's not going to get utilized by the worms for some time. So I'd really like to put everything into play and not allow it to be hiding like that. Okay. I just felt this sort of big jumble of stuff. Felt to me like I might have encountered yet another of those wads of paper stuck together, but I think we're almost done making about 2 laps around this thing, trying to hunt that sort of stuff down so we can help dislodge it from itself and spread it around. I think we've done a pretty good job, due diligence on that aspect. And along the way we got to see some worms. Nothing really happening as far as like a big worm party, because the focus of the past few check-ins has been the bedding, not so much the feedings. But guess what, this time we're going to change things a little bit. In addition to that little bit of somewhat boring leafy material, they're getting this massive bag of stuff that I received from my mom yesterday. It's a combination of just some heads of lettuce that are so rotted already, they were pretty much liquid already. There's the leaves, or the husks, or no, what do they call it? I don't know. The leaves of a ear of corn. And there's other various stuff in here, all in various states of decay. Stuff that was already so far gone that I just didn't really even intend to keep it around for the indoor wormery. I immediately saw it as a great opportunity to come in here today and provide them with a nice generous feeding. So it does seem to me like the food is probably more than the bedding itself today. Little inversion of how things were proportioned in the past few check-ins. And I think the system will do really well with that this time. So I'm trying to make a big enough hole to fit everything and still leave enough so that I can cover up with some of the surrounding materials. It's the reason I'm stacking it up so high in here. I've occasionally thought about unfolding the outer rim of this thing, because it is folded down, and I could increase the depth of the whole thing by another couple inches if I had to or wanted to. It's kind of nice to know there's that little extra bellows, sort of, not really bellows, but tucked under material that we can utilize for additional depth in here. So now the moisture level was good in here, you know. I felt like it was just right. Did not feel like we would have to add moisture today, and I have a feeling because this stuff all went into the freezer last night and is now going to start thawing out, the moisture content of this stuff, I believe, is going to be significant. I think it's going to be more than enough to account for the dry leafy material beneath it. So I've got a feeling they're going to really like this, and I got a feeling if we come back in here soon enough, before they do away with this whole pile of delicious stuff, we might even have a chance to encounter a little bit of a worm party. So I might have to make a reminder for myself that we should probably check in here if we don't forget. But if we do forget, it's not the end of the world. don't know if this is one of the avocados that was pretty much intact still. One of them I kept bouncing around here. Thought I had placed it somewhere up here, or maybe I ended up breaking it in half in the end. I initially just started out by wanting to leave those avocados untouched and just watch how they progress on their own without any help. But whatever, I figured if we encountered that one that's still whole, we might help it a little bit. But it's probably more interesting to leave it alone, because at some point we could just come back in and maybe check our records to see exactly how long it's been now, since we put it in here, to see what kind of progress it's made over that time period. And I really like the way the level of this whole thing's coming up, and that was the main objective of the past few check-ins. With the abundant application of lots and lots of bedding, the whole idea was to try to bring the whole volume of this whole system up to a point where it would really, hopefully at least, promote the breeding of the population in here. Because most people know that if you give them space, they're just going to go ahead and fill it. So I guess the thing that was deficient in here, I think, was just a whole bunch of extra available space for them to wander into and realize that, you know, hey, they got a lot of space in here and they could fill it up with new baby wormies. So that's our feeding for today. Oop, got a couple hitchhikers over here. Doesn't matter, they're going to get covered up with that piece of plywood, and it stays nice and damp under here, so that pretty much subjects this piece of cardboard to wear and tear. Like you can see, this thing was just added last week and it's already got a nibbled through section over there, here too. Any place that's nice and damp, if it's in the way, the worms will just start nibbling on it and eat it up. And that's what it's all in there for anyway, right? So, more power to them. All right, everyone, I got a few things I've got to put away and clean up here, but before I do, let me just really quickly say thank you. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's all very much appreciated. All right, everyone, thanks again for watching. Bye now.